there, fellow gamers, and welcome to Press Start to Begin,
where we uncover the stories behind the games that shaped not just the industry,
but our lives.
I'm Glitchy Gwen.
I'm Pixel Pete.
And today,
We're warping back to 1981.
A time of arcade cabinets and 8-bit wonders.
And the birth of a true gaming legend,
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong.
Now, you might be thinking, Donkey Kong, isn't that just a simple arcade game about a gorilla throwing barrels?
Right.
But trust us,
Oh, yeah.
there's so much more to this primate's tale.
Way more than just a classic.
This game single-handedly saved Nintendo.
From the brink
Yeah.
of disaster.
Yeah, and it introduced the world to a certain mustachioed plumber we all know and love.
And laid the groundwork for the entire platforming genre.
And it did all that while sparking a legal battle.
Ooh, that could have rewritten video game history.
Okay, so let's rewind back to the early 80s.
Back then,
Nintendo, believe it or not,
was on the verge of bankruptcy.
their latest arcade game, Radar Scope,
Was a total flop.
total flop, leaving them with warehouses full of unsold cabinets.
Oh, man.
Desperate.
They needed a hit.
Enter a young, relatively unknown designer
Oh.
named Shigeru Miyamoto.
First time designing a game. Can you imagine that pressure?
He was tasked with salvaging those Radar Scope cabinets.
Turning them into something marketable.
Yes!
Talk about a trial by fire.
Yeah.
So how did Miyamoto come up with Donkey Kong? What was the inspiration?
Well, it's a fascinating story.
Okay.
Miyamoto initially wanted to create a game based on the classic Popeye cartoon.
Oh, I can see that Popeye punching Bluto.
He envisioned a game where players controlled Popeye rescuing olive oil from the clutches of Bluto.
Using spinach for power-ups?
Yeah.
It's almost too perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
But licensing issues with the Popeye characters forced Miyamoto back to the drawing board.
Oh, too bad.
And that's where the magic happened.
Okay, so if not Popeye, what did he draw inspiration from?
He was a big fan of King Kong,
Of course.
and the idea of a giant ape causing mayhem definitely stuck with him. He also drew inspiration from Beauty and the Beast, envisioning a love triangle
Interesting.
between a beast, a damsel, and a hero.
And just like that, Donkey Kong, Pauline, and
Yeah,
Jumpman were born.
exactly. It's wild to think that the original game starred Jumpman, not Mario as we know him today.
It was Mario's debut.
It was!
Oh.
Although he wouldn't get his official name until a little later.
So Donkey Kong wasn't just some random gorilla.
Nope.
He was originally Mario's pet.
That's right.
That adds a whole new layer to their rivalry.
The backstory, although minimal in the game itself,
Right.
added a touch of personality and depth to the characters.
Yeah.
It also hinted at a relationship that would evolve over decades.
Becoming one of gaming's most iconic rivalries.
Relax.
This one game essentially set the stage for two of the biggest franchises in video game history.
Talk about a legacy.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely. But getting back to those unsold Radar Scope cabinets,
Right.
did Miyamoto's gamble pay off?
Did Donkey Kong save Nintendo?
Oh, you bet it did. Donkey Kong was a smash hit in arcades,
It was.
raking in over $280 million for Nintendo.
Wow, that's incredible.
That revenue quite literally rescued the company from the brink of bankruptcy.
Wow.
It was a phenomenal turnaround, all thanks to a gorilla, a carpenter, and a damsel in distress.
From almost going under to becoming a household name, I find it interesting that Donkey Kong wasn't just successful because it was fun to play. It was also innovative in ways that might seem subtle today, but were groundbreaking at the time.
Most arcade games back then were simply about scoring points.
Yeah, just racking up those high scores.
Donkey Kong, on the other hand, had a clear objective.
Okay.
A story told through visuals
Interesting.
and characters you actually cared about.
It's true.
Mm.
Even without complex dialogue or cutscenes, you understood that Donkey Kong was the bad guy, Pauline needed rescuing, and Jumpman was the hero. It was storytelling through gameplay level design and character animation. It seems so basic now,
Right.
but back then,
It was revolutionary.
it's something we take for granted today.
Absolutely.
But Donkey Kong paved the way for narrative-driven games.
And speaking of groundbreaking, we can't forget the game's impact on the platforming genre.
Jumping over obstacles, climbing ladders, timing your movements to avoid those tumbling barrels.
It all started here.
It all started with Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong established the core mechanics of the platformer, a genre that would explode in popularity in the years to come.
Wow.
Mario, Sonic, Crash Bandicoot,
They all owe a debt to Donkey Kong.
for laying the foundation.
It's incredible how such a seemingly simple game could have such a profound and lasting impact.
I know, it's amazing.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing for Donkey Kong, right?
Oh, no.
Did they run into some legal trouble?
Absolutely. Remember how Miyamoto drew inspiration from King Kong?
Oh.
Well, that inspiration caught the attention of Universal City Studios, who
Oh.
owned the rights to the King Kong character at the time.
So they sued Nintendo
They did.
for copyright infringement.
Yes. It was a tense time for Nintendo. They were a small company, still relatively new to the global market, going up against a Hollywood giant.
David versus Goliath. What was their defense? Did they even have a leg to stand on?
This is where it gets interesting.
Okay,
Nintendo's lawyer, Howard Lincoln,
smart guy.
was incredibly sharp. He was able to prove that Universal had previously declared King Kong to be in the public domain.
Wait, so Universal claimed copyright infringement, but they had already declared King Kong to be in the public domain.
They'd given up their exclusive rights to the character.
That's ironic, to say the least.
It was a brilliant legal maneuver by Lincoln. The court sided with Nintendo, handing them a major victory and solidifying their position in the gaming industry.
Wow, talk about a close call. If they had lost that lawsuit, the entire trajectory of Nintendo and maybe even the gaming industry as a whole could have been completely different.
I know, it's crazy to think about.
Truly a pivotal moment in video game history.
It really is. But that's just the beginning of Donkey Kong's story. This iconic title spawned a series that continued to evolve, transform, and redefine itself over the decades.
From villain to hero, from arcade cabinets to consoles and handhelds, Donkey Kong's journey is far from over.
And that's what we'll be exploring in part 2 of our deep dive. We'll be blasting through barrels, swinging from vines, and uncovering how Donkey Kong went from arcade sensation to platforming icon.
I can't wait. Welcome back, Pixel Pioneers, to Press Start to begin.
Where we're on a quest to conquer the highest peaks of gaming history.
And we're still hanging tough with Donkey Kong.
That tie-wearing, banana-loving ape who's been a gaming mainstay.
For over 4 decades.
Last time we explored his origins, how a barrel-tossing villain inadvertently saved Nintendo from financial ruin.
Right.
And basically birthed the platforming genre as we know it.
And we also delved into that nail-biting legal battle with Universal.
A story that proves sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
Oh yeah,
But Donkey Kong's story doesn't end there.
it doesn't.
He's a character who's gone through some serious transformations,
Okay.
evolving from antagonist to hero,
Wow.
from pixelated sprite to a fully fledged 3D character.
And his games have evolved right alongside him.
Yes, they have. From those single-screen arcade classics
Right.
to sprawling adventures that span entire islands.
So to understand how Donkey Kong made that leap,
We need to fast forward to the early 90s,
early
a
90s.
time when 16-bit graphics ruled the roost.
Ah, yes.
And a certain British studio called Rare entered the picture.
Rare, the legendary developers behind GoldenEye, 007, Banjo-Kazooie.
Perfect Dark.
They were known for pushing the boundaries of what was possible on consoles, squeezing every ounce of power out of those cartridges.
And Nintendo, always eager to innovate,
Yeah.
saw something special in Rare.
They did.
They handed them the keys to the Donkey Kong Kingdom,
Yeah.
a franchise that had been relatively quiet since the arcade days.
I can only imagine what those developers at Rare were thinking.
I know, right? Here's this iconic character,
This beloved but somewhat dormant franchise.
and they're given the chance to reimagine it for a whole new generation.
So what did Nintendo think about this?
Well, Nintendo saw it as a bit of a low-risk move.
Interesting.
Donkey Kong wasn't exactly their flagship franchise at the time,
Right.
so they gave Rare a lot of creative freedom.
And boy did Rare deliver.
In 1994, Donkey Kong Country burst onto the Super Nintendo,
Donkey Kong Country.
and it blew everyone away.
I remember seeing those graphics for the first time
I know.
and being absolutely stunned. It didn't even look like a 16-bit game.
It was groundbreaking.
Those pre-rendered 3D models, the lush environments, the detailed character animations, it was like playing an interactive cartoon.
It was a true visual revolution. Remember, this was a time when most games were still using pixel art,
Yeah,
and here comes Donkey Kong Country.
looking like something out of a CGI movie.
It was a game changer,
It was.
and it set a new standard for what was visually possible on consoles. But Rare didn't just stop at graphics.
Oh, no, they did not.
They revamped the entire Donkey Kong experience.
Really? How so?
The core gameplay was still classic platforming,
Okay.
but they injected it with this incredible sense of momentum and weight. You felt every jump, every swing, every roll.
Very cool. And the level design.
The level design was incredible. It wasn't just about jumping from platform to platform anymore.
What else was there?
There were minecart rides, barrel blasts, underwater sections.
So much variety.
So much creativity packed into each world.
And let's not forget the music.
Oh, the music. David Wise's soundtrack.
It's legendary.
It's atmospheric, melodic, with touches of jungle rhythms and ambient sounds.
Really sets the mood.
A perfect blend of catchy tunes and immersive soundscapes.
I still get chills listening to those tracks.
Me too.
Aquatic ambiance, sticker brush, symphony, they're all masterpieces.
They really are.
The music wasn't just background noise, it was an integral part of the experience.
It enhanced the emotional impact, for sure.
For sure. But perhaps the biggest change Rare brought to the Donkey Kong franchise
Was the introduction of a whole cast of new characters.
Ooh, new characters. Tell me more.
In a rich, vibrant world,
Okay.
we were introduced to Diddy Kong,
Diddy
Donkey Kong's trusty sidekick, Dixie Kong, Diddy's girlfriend with her amazing helicopter spin,
Awesome.
Cranky Kong, the original Donkey Kong, now a grumpy old-timer offering words of wisdom,
I love Cranky Kong.
and let's not forget the Kremlings,
the Kremlings.
led by the villainous King K. Rool.
King K. Rool.
They weren't just generic bad guys. They had personality, they were funny, and they were genuinely threatening.
I see Donkey Kong wasn't just climbing scaffolding anymore.
He was exploring jungles, swinging through trees, riding mine carts, blasting out of barrel cannons.
It was a whole new level of adventure.
And this formula worked.
It did.
Donkey Kong Country became a massive hit, selling millions of copies and reestablishing Donkey Kong as a major Nintendo franchise.
Wow, that's amazing. It wasn't just a critical darling, it was a commercial juggernaut.
It felt like everyone was playing Donkey Kong Country, talking about Donkey Kong Country, humming the tunes from Donkey Kong Country.
It was everywhere.
And this success, of course, led to a whole slew of sequels and spin-offs.
Like what?
We got Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest.
Diddy's Conquest.
With its darker atmosphere and even more challenging levels.
Oh, man.
And Donkey Kong Country 3 Dixie Kong's Double Trouble, which introduced new characters like Kiddy Kong
Hey, Diddy Kong.
and expanded on the exploration aspects.
Don't forget the Donkey Kong Land games for the Game Boy.
Oh, yes. Rare somehow managed to capture the essence of the Country series
Really?
on that tiny handheld screen.
It was impressive what they achieved with those games.
They pushed the Game Boy hardware to its limits to deliver a visually stunning and surprisingly deep platforming experience.
And then, of course, there's Donkey Kong 64 for the Nintendo 64.
Our first foray into a 3D Donkey Kong world.
It was a huge leap from those pre-rendered backgrounds of the Country games.
Now we were exploring a fully realized 3D environment with 5 playable Kongs, each with their unique abilities.
It was an ambitious game.
It really was.
A real attempt to bring the Donkey Kong Country formula into the 3D realm.
There were sprawling levels to explore, tons of collectibles to find, and even some light puzzle-solving elements.
Now, some might argue that Donkey Kong 64 went a little overboard with the collectathon aspect.
I can see that.
There were so many bananas coins and other trinkets to gather that it could feel overwhelming at times.
Sure.
But personally, I loved the sense of exploration and discovery in Donkey Kong 64.
It was very immersive.
It felt like a natural evolution from those 2D worlds, expanding the scope and scale of the adventure,
And it introduced new characters like Lanky Kong and Tiny Kong.
further expanding the Kong family tree.
Exactly. So by this point, Donkey Kong had gone from arcade simplicity
Right.
to a fully fledged platforming powerhouse.
With a beloved cast of characters, a rich history, and a signature style.
But the question is,
What happens next?
does Donkey Kong fade into obscurity, or does he find a way to stay relevant?
In the ever-evolving world of gaming.
That's the million-dollar question, and that's what we'll be tackling in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore Donkey Kong's legacy, his modern-day relevance.
And what the future might hold for this iconic ape.
So grab your bananas, buckle up, and get ready for the final level of our Donkey Kong journey.
All right, fellow gamers, we're back for the final level of our Donkey Kong deep dive.
We've charted his evolution from barrel-chucking baddie, the hero of his own jungle kingdom,
We've witnessed the visual revolution of Donkey Kong Country.
and explored those sprawling 3D worlds on the N64.
And now,
We face the ultimate boss
the
battle.
question of legacy.
Can a franchise born in the arcades over 40 years ago still swing into relevance today?
That's what we're here to unpack.
Is Donkey Kong a relic of the past?
Or,
Does this ape still have some fight left in him?
personally, I think Donkey Kong has a timeless quality.
I agree.
Something about his goofy charm and those challenging platforming levels that just keeps players coming back for more.
You're right.
And I think one of the keys to Donkey Kong's longevity,
Is his adaptability?
he's not afraid to try new things.
He's been in platformers, racing games, rhythm games.
Even puzzle games? Remember Donkey Konga?
Banging on those bongos to the beat was strangely addictive.
Totally. And who could forget DK King of Swing?
With its unique peg-climbing gameplay.
Exactly. Those spin-offs might not have had the same impact as the core platforming titles.
But they showed that Donkey Kong could branch out, experiment with different genres.
And still retain his unique appeal.
Speaking of core platformers,
Yes.
we can't overlook the incredible work Retro Studios did. Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze for the Wii and Wii U.
Those games were a love letter to the classic country series.
They took those core elements, the momentum-based gameplay, the challenging level design,
The lush environments.
and they polished them to a shine.
They also added their own modern touches,
Yeah.
like the dynamic camera angles and that incredible soundtrack by composer David Wise.
Those games proved that Donkey Kong could not only survive in the modern gaming landscape,
Thrive
and it's not just about nostalgia.
at their core.
Those games were just plain fun.
Whether you were a seasoned Donkey Kong veteran or a newcomer experiencing those games for the first time.
There is something instantly gratifying about swinging through those jungles, collecting bananas, and taking down those kremlings.
It's that timeless gameplay loop.
That keeps players coming back for more.
But Donkey Kong is more than just fun.
It's also a franchise with a surprisingly rich history and a dedicated fan base.
Oh yeah. The Donkey Kong community is passionate
They've dissected every game, analyzed every frame.
and crafted intricate theories about the Kong family tree.
It's fascinating to see how fans have kept the spirit of Donkey Kong alive through fan art, music, remixes.
And even speedrunning communities.
Speaking of keeping the spirit alive,
Yeah,
we can't forget Donkey Kong's foray into Hollywood.
with this year's Super Mario Bros. Movie.
Donkey Kong voiced by Seth Rogen.
Who would have thought?
He was a scene stealer.
And that little nod to the DK rap during his introduction.
It was pure fan service,
It was a perfect blend of humor and nostalgia.
and it showed that Donkey Kong can hold his own on the big screen.
And who knows?
Maybe that rumored Donkey Kong spin-off movie will actually happen.
Now that would be exciting.
Imagine a full-length animated feature exploring the world of Donkey Kong Island.
With all its wacky characters and zany adventures.
The possibilities are endless.
But for now,
We can look forward to the upcoming Donkey Kong Country expansion at Super Nintendo World.
a real-life Donkey Kong Country brought to life with rides attractions.
And who knows what other surprises.
Talk about a dream come true for Donkey Kong fans.
But beyond theme parks and movies,
I'm curious to see what the future holds for Donkey Kong in the realm of video games.
will we finally get that long-awaited 3D open-world Donkey Kong game?
There's certainly been rumors swirling around.
And honestly, I think a well-executed open-world Donkey Kong game could be incredible.
Imagine swinging through lush jungles, exploring ancient ruins, uncovering the secrets of Donkey Kong Island.
In a sprawling 3D environment.
It would be the perfect evolution for the franchise.
Blending the tight platforming gameplay with a sense of exploration and discovery.
Fingers crossed Nintendo makes it happen.
In the meantime, we can always revisit the classics.
Discover hidden gems like Donkey Kong 94 for the Game Boy.
Or challenge ourselves with a speedrun of Donkey Kong Country.
So much to play, so little time.
But hey, that's the beauty of a franchise like Donkey Kong.
There's something for everyone,
Whether you're a retro enthusiast, a platforming aficionado,
or just someone looking for a good time.
and as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's safe to say that Donkey Kong's legacy is far from over.
He's more than just a gaming icon,
He's a symbol of innovation reinvention.
and the enduring power of fun.
Well said.
So next time you hear that familiar DK roar, remember that it's more than just a sound effect,
It's a call to adventure
a reminder of gaming's past.
and a beacon of hope for its future.
This is Pixel Pete, reminding you to keep those controllers warm and your nostalgia circuits firing.
And this is Glitchy Gwen signing off.
Don't forget to join us next time as we journey into the world of Final Fantasy.
See you then.